Hello and welcome back to Caran Leisg. I'm going to do a layout and a stock update and a running session. So if you want to just jump straight to the running session, I will leave a time code in the description below this video, straight to the running session. But for those of you who are interested in a layout up and a stock update, keep on watching. Now, as you can see from the last video, a lot has happened and no layout is ever finished. But this is almost as good as done, really. I will probably do another video about the pros and cons of building a Boxfile layout, because this has not been without its challenges at all. So where do I start? Well, I think first of all we will move the Class 29 out of the way to give us a better view, and then we'll crack on with a layout tool. Just let him take the passenger train away. So starting from left to right, well, where do I start? I've obviously done the groundwork here. So it was ballasted with sand from the Isle of Barra, and then Daz clay on top, and painted with just my usual regular cheap acrylic artist paints from the works, brown and black, and then they've been weathered with artists, here we go, just these from the works, soft pastels. Oh, there's the knife. You just chip them away and then just paint them on. And that's also how I've weathered the locos as well. We'll come to the locos in a minute. So that's how I've done the groundwork. I can't remember if I'd made that last time or not, the little coaling stage out of L-Cut Creative leftovers and coffee stirrers. I painted the engine shed windows black and put in proper lintels now. They didn't have lintels before. Not too sure about them. The black windows look really good over by the loading bay there, but not so sure about that. That's a P&D Marsh model I picked up at a show, £5, which I thought was excellent value, and just looked it up on the internet to see how to paint it. This Boxfile is really where most of it's happened. The first thing you notice is the fencing. That's from scale model scenery, because I don't have a printer, so I can't do scale scenes downloads. Those cardboard buildings were off eBay. I've obviously got some landscaping there, which is combination of grass tufts, green chalk pastel scraped off again, and or coloured sawdust. This here near the cess is just sawdust that I've soaked in green paint. There are some proper grass tufts as well that I bought, and then there's just from my last end gauge layout where I blitzed a washing up sponge in the blender, and then just coloured them with paints. Slight mistake here, wish I had painted the sleepers before I had done all this. The track is then weathered with chalk pastels, a little bit of paint as well. This barn is from Scale Model Scenery, very pleased with that. Very pleased with the door as well. That was my first attempt at hairspray weathering. Plenty of tutorials on YouTube about hairspray weathering. Now, one of the things that was challenging was this channel that's left in the box files. Wondered what to do with it. I wondered how to cover it. And then I had this brilliant idea. Why don't I have it as a ditch, a drainage ditch? So all that is painted brown and covered with PVA glue that's just allowed to set and gives you, it passes. This whole thing, it passes muster. It's never going to be the end of the last word in realism, but it's just, yeah, I'm pleased with it. Not so pleased with the static grass. I have one of those cheap tea strainers on a fly swatter, and it does the 2mm, the 4mm okay, but the 6mm look terrible. I brushed it off and tried again. This is the second attempt, which doesn't look as bad. It's still not great, but you know what? It got to the stage with this layout that done is better than perfect. It's taken me 2 years to get to this stage. So that is the layout update. Now about the stock update. Now before on the layout, you would have seen that I've been using old mainline split chassis locos that I had a home build. I made a homemade controller that controlled them beautifully, but the homemade controller broke because it was only housed in a margarine tub. And I just don't, you know what? I've come to the conclusion that while I can do electronics, they don't really turn me on. And so I've gone back to using a Gauge Master combi covered in static grass, and these two old Hornby locomotives. I've always had a soft spot for the Class 29, and I found some good images on the internet to base the weathering on. So let's close in on that a bit. So again, that's just chalk pastels from the works. I've made a dark wash just out of, again, cheap black acrylic paint from the works. Thinned with water, drop of washing up liquid, use that as a dark wash. And then the oil spills are purely Humbrol black gloss paint. So I am really pleased with the Class 29. And it had a little service. Well, I've given it a service. It cost me about, a couple of years ago, that cost me about £20 on eBay. So that was a really good buy. This little thing, very pleased with as well. Now, it's not the greatest in realism. The Cali Pug, none of these cheap Hornby 040s are, but I like it. Let's bring it into shot a bit more. But what you'll notice, the most striking thing of all, is I've made a little tender for it. And I will demonstrate why I've made a tender for it. Let's just... So to show the difference fitting a pickup tender makes, I've put old Smoky Joe out, and as you can see, he's stalled already. So you need to give him a bit of a prod, and hopefully he can get over these points all right, yeah. And then you'll see again, stalled again. And all this constant stalling and prodding, just, to me, it spoils the enjoyment of a layout. And now yet it's worked fine in that direction over the same pair of points. And stalled again there. So all this pushing and poking just, I don't know, to me it spoils the enjoyment. Now let's see how this does with the pickup tender. So now we have the little pug with the pickup tender, and let's see how he manages at slow speed. So funnily enough, no stalling anywhere. I've taken the vans out the siding so we can give it a proper go. There you go, and then back. What a difference. No poking, no prodding. Just runs beautifully. So I think these are really, it's a really good idea to fit one of these. All it is, oops. So I think it's a really good idea to fit one of these. I mean, all it is I got a cheap 3-plank wagon off eBay that was in a really sorry state. This is a pickup kit from Eileen's. You need to be able to solder, and then I've hardwired it into the motor of the Cali Pug. I did try one of the little plugs that you can get, plug and sockets between the loco and the tender, but it was so cumbersome and it was fiddly to solder, and then it just looked terrible. Now I know this is not the most realistic tender. You can get far better ones. Double O Bill has made one. Keith KV something, his layout, haven't a clue, pastiche. He's made one, made a far better job of it than I have. So, but the thing is, the Cali Pug is not the last word in realism anyway. So, you know, neither's my little tender, but it does the job of adding pickups and really, really increasing the pleasure of the layout, no end. The Cali Pug I picked up brand new in 2018 for £17. I think you still get them on eBay for about 20 quid. The wagon I think was £3, and then obviously you got to buy the pickup kit from Eileen's. So all in all, I reckon, you know, the time you spent, about 30 quid on something that runs this beautifully. Yeah, and it looks fine. It's been weathered up with the pastels from the works, and one of those little scratchy pens, one of those little glass fibre pens to scratch down the number and stuff. I could do better with the weathering, put some coal in. Obviously the coal was a piece of coal that came with the house. I had coal when I bought this house. And it needs crew. Crew came with it in the box, and I've got to paint those up. But yeah, really, really pleased with that. So that's a layout and a stock update. Now let's have a bit of a running session. So we have class 29 D6110 bringing in a passenger train. Unfortunately, the passengers have to get out through the guard's van. Now, the Cali Pug moves off the shed. And heads off to go and pick up the goods train. Now with all the passengers off, the class 29 can propel its coach back, ready to run around. Here comes the Cali Pug with the morning goods. We've got a couple of vans that are empty, ready to fill up with cakes and biscuits, and the milk delivery. So now he's clear, the class 29 can depart with the passenger train. So now it's time for the Cali Pug to put its train into the loop, ready to shunt the vans into the correct place. So first things first, the empty van's into the goods out siding, ready to be filled up with cakes and biscuits. So then next it's the milk tanker into the goods in siding. And then the Cali Pug heads back to the town with just the brakeman. So there you have it. That's how much fun you can have with a loco and tender that cost, I'd say about 30 quid in total. The Class 29 was, I think, about £20 on eBay. And then these wagons, if you remember like the bird's eye and all that, without roofs, you can get those at exhibitions about £2.50. So that's what those box fans are. That tanker was about £8, I think. So yeah, no need to spend a huge fortune. And I hope you enjoyed that update. I'm next going to do a video just about the pros and cons of a Boxfile, so look out for that, and might even revisit the N gauge, but the N gauge might be going. So hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye now.